Hello and welcome to the CX Files for Thursday, 13th July 2023. My name is Mark Hillary and I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And I'm Peter Ryan in Montreal. Mark, I can't believe July is half over.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just, I was just thinking this because, we have kind of over halfway through the year. I can guarantee we'll start seeing the Christmas lights out soon. I reckon by September we'll start seeing them.
Yeah, it's gone from a couple of weeks before Christmas to all of December. Then in Canada, you started noticing the day after Halloween, the Christmas stuff came out. And I was talking with somebody in a department store one day when I was purchasing something, and I asked them, how excited are you for the Christmas season with the music coming on? And they said that they were literally expecting that they were going to go insane by January when the Christmas music got turned off.
Yeah, well, can you imagine just having to listen to the greatest hits of Slade and the Pogues all day in the shop?
Yeah, it's probably interesting for like the first, 2 shifts. And then, it's a case of let's just find something else, anything else. But, talking a little bit about experiences when it comes to CX and big changes in terms of how CX is delivered and so forth, I'll segue to the individual that we're going to be talking to today. Now, it's a longtime friend of mine, one Mr. Caskey Ndaba, who I got to know, Mark, back in 2004 on my first trip to South Africa. Caskey has had a series of different roles in the CX space in South Africa and now around Southern Africa. Right now, he is managing the sales division for the contact center at Metropolitan, a leading life insurance or insurance company in Africa, and he's been with them for several years. I caught up with Caskey so we could talk about a couple of things. One, some of the dynamics he's picking up managing revenue generation in the insurance sector. We know that insurance is a longtime user of contact centers and has a big focus on CX. So to find out a little bit from Caskey what he's seeing, both in terms of delivery as well as what the consumers are saying, but also to talk to him a little bit about what's happening from the angle of servicing customers in rapidly accelerating economies. So he's got responsibility for a number of different economies or a number of different markets in Southern Africa. And it was really enlightening to hear his thoughts a little bit about what prospective consumers of insurance products and services are saying, what they're looking to buy, how they're looking to buy, where there's maybe parallels or intersections based on what we're seeing in other more developed consumer markets and what might be unique to some of these places. So really a fascinating chat. He actually joined us from his hotel room in Windhoek in Namibia.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you spoke to him in Namibia because it might be interesting at one point to sort of go back and look at all of our episodes, and there's almost 300 of them now, to see how many different countries we've actually covered off. But I think that's a first for Namibia anyway.
It's a first for Namibia. We have had a lot of people who've joined us from a lot of different countries, and it's been fantastic, ranging from locations as exotic as Malta all the way through to Egypt.
Absolutely. Now, I think that the conversation with Caskey is interesting also as well, because as someone who's focused on CX and insurance, that's a market that really interests me because I've never worked out how to get insurance companies to think more about customer lifetime value. How do they engage with customers more? Because, let's face it, the only time you ever talk to your insurance company is when they want your money. You're asking them for a quote and they're telling you, here's how much it's going to be. Or you've got a problem, your house has been burgled, you've crashed your car. So that it's a high stress situation, or they're taking money from you. So I think that, anyone in this industry that can create more of a kind of relationship with the customer, I think they're going to be printing money.
Yeah, and this is something that Caskey and I touched on. It's very rare that you call up your insurer just to have a chat. It's because you require something, and it's going to be probably pretty urgent in terms of what you do need from them. But, Mark, it was a really great chat with Caskey. As you say, it's the first time we've actually spoken to somebody from Namibia. So let's keep let's get the suspense over and go straight to our chat with him. This CX Files this week is one that I've been really looking forward to for some time. I always like to say that the CX Files is a discussion amongst friends, but it truly is in this episode. I'm so excited to be talking to my longtime pal, Caskey Ndaba, who joins us today from his hotel room in Namibia. So we're so glad that he could take a few minutes to speak with us. But to give some context to everybody listening today, wherever you might be in the world, this man and I have been friends probably as long as I've been in the CX business. And to take you back in time, Caskey, the first opportunity we had to meet was on our way to an event in Zambia. You and I were sitting next to each other on a plane going to the same CX conference that was taking place at Livingston, just right by Victoria Falls back in 2004. It was the first chance I'd had to visit Africa, and it was also the first chance I had alongside you where we both ate crocodile salad sandwiches. So this is really going back in time, isn't it?
Wow, it is going back in time indeed. I mean, Peter, I am so amazed with how you even remember some of the details. And thank you so much for having me here. And I'm excited that we can be able to share. And we've been talking and walking this CX journey for a while, and it is amazing.
It is. It really is. And one thing I always relish is the chance when I go and I visit South Africa, which up until the pandemic, I was doing about once a year. You and I was always make a point of getting together, whether it was out to have a few drinks at a pub, whether it was at our mutual friend Rod Jones's house, but we would always find a way to connect and hang out. And I'm looking forward to coming back to visit you in South Africa soon, my friend. But, you know, where we are today, you have had quite the career. And we were just chatting before we hit the record button, Caskey. You have worked in the technology sphere. You've worked in telco from a CX perspective. Prior to your current role, I know that you had an interest in a funeral business as well. And now you find yourself working with Momentum Metropolitan Holdings, where you're one of the CX leaders. And we're really excited today to be talking about what you're doing currently, where you're managing new business in Namibia, Ghana, Botswana, Mozambique, and Lesotho. Hence why you're in the hotel room in Namibia today. So I'd like to lead off our chat by finding out a little bit about what led you into this role. How did you find yourself working CX for one of the biggest insurers in all of Africa?
I think for me, Peter, it is something that I've been very passionate about customer experience, and especially from a perspective of acquiring new business. And it has been my passion for a while, and I have actually been in the new business acquisition space for some time. And I must say that I was running my insurance business as a broker when I was actually approached by one of the people that I worked with. And he actually introduced me to Momentum Metropolitan Holdings. And I had to actually then leave what I was doing because I think the value proposition was quite interesting. And I decided to join one of the leading companies because I knew that it was going to broaden my experience from what I was doing, and especially having to operate across different countries, having to deal with different cultures, having to deal with different regulations, having to deal with different technology environments, and also the customer experiences, they vary. And so for me, it was very appealing with the fact that one's exposure was going to be broadened and I could leverage off my experience in having to add value in the sub-Saharan Africa.
I think that's a really, really good introduction to our chat today. Now, you know, insurance is a sector that's always fascinated me, Caskey, and the concept of new business development in the insurance space, I think, is really, really interesting in the context of what we're going to be going over. But if we were to talk a little bit about, based on your experience, insurance as a vertical market and what denotes it from a good CX perspective. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the whole customer experience dynamic playing out in the space? Because I always say, if somebody's contacting an insurer, they're not phoning just to have a chat. They're phoning because there might be a leak in the roof, or they might have had an automobile accident, or they require some type of question, an urgent question as it relates to their coverage. What do you see as the key tenets around CX when it comes to the insurance sector today?
That is always something that insurers that have actually been around and those that keep on staying have got to get it right. And that is the ability to understand what the customer's needs are and make sure that we make them to be comfortable at all times. Remember, insurance is you're just selling a promise, and you're not selling a product. Like if ever I've got my iPad and I'm selling a product, it's tangible. As I pay, I'm using it. But here you are selling a promise to say, when this happens, this is what we're going to do. So the level of confidence has got to be extremely high for an insurer to actually thrive in this environment. And that is why the sector always has got to make sure that whenever there is a need for the promise to actually be delivered, that the insurer has to make sure that they find a reason to honor the promise. Not those that fail are those that will try and find a reason to decline a claim. But now, because from a customer experience point of view, it's important to understand that an insurer must make sure that they understand that today's claim, properly and timeously settled, secures tomorrow's business. And that is a very, very important thing to actually make sure that we actually get done. And that is why I've operated a lot also in the long-term insurance space, which is the life cover space, and with the pandemic that actually hit us, and it was a huge thing from a financial perspective of a lot of insurers. So that is where we actually had to come through as an industry and make sure that we honor those promises that we have actually made, and that was a global challenge. Governance that goes with it, and making sure that we honor that we make out there.
So how would you say in general that the insurance industry is doing in regards to customer experience? Because one of the things that I hear about quite frequently is a fair amount of frustration, at least in North America, when it comes to being able to engage on that promise, as you say, the fact that you've got an insurer that's been taking your premiums on a month-by-month basis, and when you do eventually get through to speak to somebody, there's a lot of concern that it gets bogged down with bureaucracy, that the insurer is finding a way not to pay out or taking an excessive amount of time. From your angle, is this something that you see improving? Are the insurance companies moving in the right direction in this regard, or is there still a lot of work to do?
I think there's a lot to be done because if you look at it, insurance is very much a technical thing because of the actuarial rules that gets to be applied and all the things that customers don't know. From a customer experience point of view, I buy what I understand from the level where I am as a customer, not understanding some of the actuarial principles and rules which end up governing particular inclusions, exclusions, and all those things. So I think as an industry, it's important that we get to actually educate our customers more about some of the things. Ongoing education is something that we really need to do better, because when some of the claims are actually declined, you'll find that technically speaking, the insurer is right. But looking at it from an experience point of view, because some things were understood in a certain way, then the company is deemed to be wrong, whereby they are actually right. That is where now there is that need for sometimes having to understand that sometimes you may have the right to do something, but it may not be the right thing to do because of the impression and perception that you may actually end up creating out there. Can we cut the costs? Because now in bricks and mortar infrastructure, most of the things are done electronically. Maybe we could cut some of the premiums because of those efficiencies that we have realized. So yes, there indeed is more that can be done, and I don't think we've actually even scratched the surface of improving the experiences that we have with our customers.
So let's switch over from insurance to talk a little bit still about insurance, but also some of the different economies that you're managing new business development in. I'm really curious, given the fact that we're hearing so many different positive vibes out of emerging Africa, the extent to which you're finding consumers are interested in taking on new insurance products, and how, as somebody who's a CX leader when it comes to new business development, new revenue generation, how do you manage this growth, especially in economies where people are effectively leapfrogging what they might have had previously and are looking for some of the more sophisticated, exciting products on the insurance market?
Yes, and I must say that Africa is advancing very, very, very fast in a lot of ways, in terms of technology adoption, in terms of expectations also. And we've seen a number of companies that came from Europe or North America, and only to find that the adoption is actually very high. The understanding of what people want is actually very high. And therefore, with an understanding of the fact that insurance is generally not a product that is bought; it's a product that is sold. So, as insurers, we just we just have to make sure that we spread ourselves into environments where we know that our consumers are actually playing, participating, and all that, and design products that are applicable to the different life stages of our potential clients, depending on where they are in their actual life. Because we've got a very high amount of technology adoption, and also we have got expectations that are also high, and also people really now calculate what they are spending their money on, and the people want value for money, and that is why the need to innovate is very, 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 very huge, and it puts a lot of pressure on companies, so that we can be in a position of making sure that we give a lot of value back to our customers.
And when you think about customers in some of these emerging economies like Namibia or Lesotho, just as a couple of examples, Mozambique as well, how do you find that their expectations as consumers are evolving relative to, say, a South African consumer, where I know you've had a lot of experience in the past? Are they effectively at the same level in terms of what their requirements and their expectations are, or is it a different dynamic in that sense?
The expectations, I must say that they're very much similar. The only thing that you'll actually find is the things that they're exposed to. For an example, you'll find Lesotho, just to give you an example, whereby they are very, very much high when it actually comes to cash premium collections. They pay a lot of cash, whereby in South Africa, a lot of things are through bank debit order or stop order, and all those electronic ways and means. And therefore, the solution that is actually expected from an insurer in a Lesotho space or in a Ghana space, to even say that, has got to take those dynamics and nuances of the countries into consideration. So from an expectations point of view, the expectations are very much similar. And also the focus is also quite dynamic, because in those environments, like the countries we're just talking about, there's a lot more emphasis on savings other than just insurance. And where you'll find retirement annuities, education investment plans, and all of that, those becoming the dominant products compared to your risk products, which you look at things like your funeral plans or your life covers, and those type of things. And therefore, the education from a financial literacy, yes, it needs to grow. There's still an opportunity from that perspective in having to know how to manage and mitigate risk, but it's not actually a huge difference compared to what it is in South Africa, other than the issue of technology availability, and networks, internet bandwidth, and all those things. Thanks.
And you've really, I think, read my mind in terms of the next question, and that relates to the extent to which digitization is playing a role in customer experience, whether it's new client acquisition in insurance in some of these emerging African countries, or even just broad customer experience interactions. Caskey, one of the things that I'm noticing in North America, and certainly on the trips I make to Western Europe, is the extent to which we're seeing consumers that are being given so many different options that are non-voice channels when it comes to interacting with their insurers. The fact that claims processing can be done online to a very large extent. And I think for people who wouldn't necessarily be educated when it comes to emerging Africa, the immediate assumption would be that this would have to be something that a customer would be doing in an insurance broker's office, or might be doing it over a landline telephone. But the extent to which I have seen so many individual consumers leapfrogging these traditional contact methods and wanting to go online immediately within emerging African countries has really blown me out of the water. How are you reconciling these different contact channels that people might be looking to try and take on, or already have taken on, alongside some of the more traditional ones, as you look to win new business or as you look to try and process claims?
In that, for an example, we've got what we call paperless claims, and submitting and processing a claim via WhatsApp, and the entire process is started and completed. And using chatbots, and we've got, like in Ghana, we've got a bot called YAA, as in YAA, and YAA will just sell everything from point A to point to the last contact, and at the same time email you the policy document or send it via WhatsApp if needed, without having to have interacted with anybody. And so the adoption is there, the appetite is there, and we are seeing, from there, the cost of acquisition is almost, it's very minute compared to having financial advisors running around all over the place who sometimes have a headache, and then they can't go to work. Never has a headache, and they're always at work 24/7. And all that. And we've also identified a certain trend of times by when a certain age group starts buying insurance, and when it's actually presented to them in a manner that actually has got to make sense to them, the way that they understand it at that time. And so the adoption is there, the appetite is there, the opportunities are huge, even though about 85%, if I can pull it below 90%, is still face-to-face engagement. And so that is something that is still going to take a little while for that to go down. However, the transition is actually in motion already. And we've seen a number of players actually taking advantage of that. And more than anything else, it's an issue of educating customers about other methods of getting business and creating that level of confidence. Some people, they still want to see, hey, I'm talking to Ryan. I know Ryan. If I've got a problem, I know where to get him. I know where he lives, But in this case now, you can't go to a chatbot. And if you've got issues, you just need to be comfortable that that solution is going to help you. So the customer experience goes from a new business acquisition point of view, and then backed by ongoing communication, just to make sure that the relationship is there and that security and comfort remains intact at all times.
Well, that's a good note to finish off on. And I want to say once again, thank you, Caskey Ndaba. It is great to see you from your hotel room in Namibia. We wish you a great series of meetings as you move forward on your travels. But we will look forward to having you back rather than later on the CX Files.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and all the best to you.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. We really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. You can reach myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan via LinkedIn. Please also leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast provider, as that helps more people to find us. As always, we'd like to thank Chris Haig at Traction Media for the CX Files graphics. See you next week.